So this is really a curriculum blog about teaching and learning, and it's just because I spend most of my time doing teaching and learning and curriculum and thinking about it and reading books about it, and just to begin to create a community around some of those thoughts. So it's not going to be particularly edited, but it's probably going to be quite frequent and hopefully reflect some thinking I think is important. So I'm here, moon's somewhere up there, some birds flying around, and the middle of rice paddies, and it's kind of beautiful here. So I'm in northern Thailand on a trip with students, and we're kind of looking at lots of things, but one of the things we're looking at is that sort of developing a connection to nature, and I'm kind of really interested in that at the moment. So one of the books I'm interested in at the moment is this book, The Human Relationship with Nature. Oh wow, and a nice bird going off there. Nice. And one of the points this book makes is that if we really want to be stewards for the natural world, there's a number of reasons why we could choose to do that. And they're here. So basically there are a whole lot of reasons which are anthropocentric, which basically are about we look after nature because it suits ourselves, and there's a range there like personal interests, like I like it, or aesthetic, like nature's really pretty so we shouldn't destroy it, and yeah, it is really pretty. Things about our welfare, and we should look after the natural environments. Interpersonal condemnation, so like other people will think I'm a bad person if I throw rubbish, or just avoid punishment. You know, it's illegal to throw rubbish here in this lovely environment, so I'm not going to do it for that reason. But the text argues that the most powerful environmental stewardship comes when we do it for other reasons, which is like because the natural world has intrinsic value, which is the biophilia argument of Wilson, which is a really interesting book, or that animals have rights, living things have rights, and we should respect them, or that relational bit of like animals are important to me, and it's sort of like associating human relationships with animal relationships. So those are all really, really important reasons why we should look after a place like this, which, although it's farmland, so it's not really natural, but it's certainly countryside and certainly full of living things. And a lot of these arguments go back to arguments about stewardship. So if, I guess in your school or community, if you're looking at any of the sustainable development goals towards nature, or if you've got a stewardship program, or like a gardening program, or a composting program, then they're really about stewardship. And the best arguments for this come from Aldo Leopold, and I've been reading a lot recently. It's really, really interesting. So he basically says that to look after or to steward a natural system, then what you want is you want to look at it and say your job is to make that system more healthy. And he defines health as the ability to receive, store and release energy. So I guess in an ecosystem that's from the sun and then through the food chain or food web. And you can think about it in terms of things like the circular economy as well, in terms of like how you steward resources. So how nutrients and energy and sort of chemical energy basically is stewarded through that system. And you can think of it through the biophilia argument about like how you sustain biodiversity. And they're really interesting ways to think about what we should do with natural environments, and the idea of stewardship is really, really interesting. So the idea that there are interventions we can make in those complex systems to increase their health, their carrying capacity and their biodiversity, and that's the kind of things we should be learning in a place like this. And the reasons why we should do that, again, according to this, the most superficial reasons are kind of because it benefits mankind in one way or another. But the really profound reasons are when we sense that our identity actually is broadened and deepened when we consider nature as part of our identity, and we start to want to look after it, not because we're told to, not because it benefits humans, but because it has intrinsic value. So that I find really, really interesting and really useful. And thinking of stewardship, someone's having a good fire over there. I'm not sure if that's an example of environmental stewardship or quite the opposite, but there you go. But really, really interesting. And to see the students on this trip build their sense of connection with nature. I went to an elephant nature park, which is like looking after elephants who've been abused, and their increasing sense that you should do that because elephants are living things that have rights, not just because it benefits humans in some way. But the question is, do students begin to learn to associate that with other animals? And a really interesting thing that happened on this trip is one of our students is from Bhutan and is Buddhist, and people were killing mosquitoes quite happily. And she just cut in and said, is there any reason why you think your life is more valuable than that mosquitoes? Because she wasn't killing them, but just trying to avoid them, but not going out of her way to kill them. So it's been a really fascinating trip in terms of trying to help students develop a connection to nature that will lead them to become stewards of the natural environment. So I find it fascinating. It's a lovely place to read books like this. And it's lovely scenery to do it. So I'm going to leave you with, you can see here just a beautiful sunset going down, and here's some beautiful rice, which is just gone to seed, ready to be harvested, which is amazing. So there you go, some rice, which is what people are doing over there. It's just time to harvest the rice. So I'll leave you with this rather beautiful image of lovely sunset colours and the rice field just, or paddy, just coming into seed. And hope you have some good curriculum thinking, and I hope you're looking at stewardship in your schools or thinking about how you can help students develop a connection to nature.